Hello, thank you for coming back to see another video. Please, if you like this video, hit like on YouTube and subscribe and share with anyone that you think might be blessed by it. Today I want to talk about something that I found really difficult for myself the last couple of years. And it was probably the first time in my Christian walk that I'd ever really struggled with forgiveness. And so I'm going to call this when Christians cannot forgive. Um, as Christians, we know that Jesus wants us to forgive. Even on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And even in the Lord's Prayer, he says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." So we know that forgiveness is important. But why should we forgive someone who isn't sorry? Well, I'll tell you, it's because forgiveness isn't about them. Forgiveness is about us and our walk with the Lord. It's about us obeying God. It's about our relationship with God. Unforgiveness allows for harsh feelings, anger, bitterness, as long as the person chooses to hold on to that unforgiveness. They'll hold on to the negativity and everything that accompanies it, and it will deeply interfere in their walk with the Lord. And worst of all, not only is that bad enough, but it also gives the adversary a foothold. And that's something that we definitely don't want in our walk. And I'm going to start out by telling you a story that I heard a number of years ago. And it was about unforgiveness. There was a young woman, who was in a wonderful relationship. She got engaged. She was just, above happy. Everything was going wonderful in her life. But then, to her shock, she discovered that her fiance and her sister had run off together. And she was absolutely devastated, as you can imagine. And at some point, her sister realized that what she'd done was horrible. It was a horrible mistake. So she left the man and she returned to her sister to beg her for her forgiveness. But the sister refused. And over the years, she kept coming back to her sister. "Please forgive me. What I did was wrong. I'm so sorry." But the sister would not. And in the end, by practicing this unforgiveness, by holding on to this grudge, by being unwilling to give her sister forgiveness and to accept her back in and to love her again, she died a very bitter old woman. So this is what bitterness, when we carry it, that's what it does to us. It doesn't make us strong. You might feel like you're being strong because you're not forgiving. You're not giving them what they want. It doesn't make us happy. It makes us miserable. And that is guaranteed. The Lord, everything that he teaches us in the Bible, it's for our benefit. He loves us. His word is great wisdom, and it's way beyond our way of doing things. We're humans. We like to be led by our emotions. We like to feel powerful or in control. And sometimes God asks us to do things that we don't want to do, or we don't feel like we should have to do. But when we apply God's word, the outcome is beautiful. Now, when I say not giving the devil a foothold, it really means that you're not giving him an opportunity to work on you or through you, which can lead you into sin. It's like a temptation, or it can cause others that you're around to sin. And then we come to the question of, why should we forgive someone who keeps hurting us? Well, Jesus told Peter, Peter asked him, he said, "Lord, how often shall I forgive my brother who keeps sinning against me? And up to 7 times? Is that good enough?" And Jesus said to him, "I don't say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. In other words, keep forgiving them. I would ask you a question. Is it that we cannot forgive, or that we're just being stubborn? I'll give you a little bit of my story and what I've gone through in the last couple of years. I lost my daughter coming up to 2 years ago, and it was via suicide, and it was extremely difficult for me. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that she would ever do that. And I was devastated, as you can imagine. And what happened is at the funeral, I was deeply hurt by a family member who is a Christian. And being on Valium, being an absolute mess because of my daughter's death, I think that the things that were said put me over the top. It just completely devastated me. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, something that I always thought was, it had to be like being back from the military or something like that, but it wasn't. It was the trauma of the circumstances that just almost knocked me for a loop. I suffered from post-traumatic. I suffered severe anxiety, that kind of anxiety that wakes you up in the middle of the night when you're able to sleep. I had severe depression. I had to go and talk to my doctor about getting help because I just couldn't seem to snap out of it. Some days it was really hard to avoid thinking about what happened, and I would ruminate. I would keep thinking about what was said and what happened over and over and over again. And those thoughts, those nagging thoughts, destroyed my emotions. This went on for a long time. I have to say it was probably a year and a half where I just could not seem to get past those thoughts. And I did everything. I, would watch YouTube for hours, anything to distract me, because I didn't want to think about those things. I didn't want to cry, didn't want to keep feeling all that hurt. It was just more than I could bear. I didn't really want to forgive them. I realize this now. But I said the prayer, because I wanted to do what God wanted me to do. So I figured I'll fake it until I make it. I'll keep praying, but the forgiveness was in my heart. It just kept resurfacing, and I couldn't seem to get rid of it. And, going through the motions didn't help. And I can't tell you right now exactly what it was that helped me figure out what to do. It doesn't matter anyway, because I'm convinced that it was God who got me to that understanding. I don't remember how it happened, but Jesus said that we should love our enemies and pray for those that persecute us. And this family member, in my mind, had, set out to hurt me when I was most vulnerable, kick you when you're down, when you can't defend yourself. And all that I wanted was for them to say that they were sorry because I had been wronged. I even went as far as writing this family member and saying, look, I'll take full responsibility for everything that happened. I wasn't sincere. I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted it to end. I even went as far as saying, I tried to ask God to make them sorry, to make them see that they, had hurt me and what they had done was wrong. But I don't think that God meant that we should pray for others so that we can benefit. I think we're meant to pray for others so that they'll benefit. And they never did say that they were sorry, not even today. To my further upset, they accepted my apology and told me that they forgave me, but they wanted to keep their distance. So in other words, they wanted nothing to do with me anymore. You can imagine that really was like, I was just blown away. I was so hurt. I was hurt to the point where I never wanted to have anything to do with them ever again. So here I was back to square one, sitting there with all my upset and my misery and my anger and feeling, betrayed. And, it was a whole bunch of negativity. And it was when I started to understand that I was upset with God for allowing them to hurt me. I mean, why would God, my Father, allow this person who's supposed to be a Christian to hurt me and not deal with them and not do anything to make it right? I was upset that he wasn't setting them straight, you know. I didn't want to forgive until they had said that they were sorry. And my upset towards God started pulling me away from him. And this became worse and worse. And I started to feel like he had abandoned me, that I was somehow being punished because I didn't see what my daughter was going to do. I mean, I had such a mess of feelings. And this became worse and worse because I can't think of anything more awful than feeling that God isn't there anymore. I don't want to live in this world without him. So my feeling of abandonment really was just another lie from the adversary, but I didn't really kind of see it at the time. Because, you know, Jesus said he'd never leave us or forsake us. And this wasn't dependent on how I was feeling. This was the truth. This was the Word of God. So how did I forgive? Well, it took some practice. And I don't even know, again, I think this came from God. And you might want to try this if you're harboring unforgiveness yourself. Each time that I would start to have a negative feeling towards this person, I would stop and I would resist it. And then I would pray to the Lord for him to bless them and their family and their grandchildren in every way, you know, bless their finances, bless their spiritual walk, bless them, you know, give them great joy, give them all this, Lord, just, you know, give it to them. And to meet every need, to draw them even closer to him than they'd ever been. And I left everything else in his hands. I just realized, you know, I'm going to try really hard to just be obedient, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to resist. Now, I still have days because, you know, this is a tough thing to go through, and grief doesn't have like a straight path. And maybe I'll do a video on what I've learned about grief at some point. If that's, you know, something that any one of you would like to hear, just let me know in the comments section. I still have rough days, but I continue to do this. I continue to practice this. Whenever I have a thought that I know isn't leading me to something positive, I just start praying for the person. You know, the thing that really blew me away, and I shouldn't be surprised because everything God does and tells us to do, it's for our own good. He knows what's going to benefit us better than we do. We think we know, but we really don't know. And the only way you can find out is by doing what he says and then watching what happens. In only a few days, my heart started to heal. My thoughts started to get better. And I believe that unforgiveness is a foothold that pushes us to be bitter, unforgiving, and to hold on to hurt feelings. And the battlefield is right here. This is where the battlefield is. I'm not saying that the adversary can't send someone to you or use someone. Even us imperfect Christians can get things wrong and hurt each other. But if we don't resist the temptation, and that's what I believe it is when we have these negative thoughts, I believe it's temptation for us to sin. If we don't resist it, we will end up being led into sin. And that's not what we want in our walk as Christians. So I want to ask you today, is there someone who's hurt you? Are you unwilling or struggling to forgive them? Be willing, because you love and trust and want to obey Jesus. That's the best reason. Pray for them to be blessed in every way. I mean, ways that they don't even know. Pray for them. Each time the adversary tries to get you to think negative things about them, every time you're presented with the temptation, resist it. And you'll find in no time what I found. The hurt will subside, and you'll be praying with the love of the Lord for them to be blessed. And that is going to bless you. When we do what God says, we soon discover that He was right. I hope you have a good day. Bye.